Good afternoon. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Wednesday, September 26, 2024. And as always, we promise a robust conversation. In fact, two great conversations today. Did I say today is Wednesday? I meant today is Thursday. If I said Wednesday, apologies. Thursday, September 26th, 2024. It's a great month for me. Had a birthday a few days ago, hit 77. And I'm telling people that, as you progress down the path, the birthdays come quicker and quicker. So people would ask me, when's your birthday or how old are you? And I'd say I'm 76, 77, stuff because I couldn't remember. But now I'm going to say I'm almost 80. And that's easy to remember. So if you ask me, how old are you, Al McFarlane? I'll say almost 80, and I feel real good. I hope you're feeling good as well. I want to shout out my brother, Wayne, whose birthday is 28th. And Wayne McFarlane and Ipso Facto are doing a special concert next Tuesday night, I believe, October 2nd, down at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis. They're doing a tribute to the classic Ipso Facto reggae rock work. And they're also having a number of other musicians, Ryan among them, perform all of it in tribute to the former head chef at the Dakota, Brother Pettis, Remy Pettis, who has transitioned. But a fun evening, a big evening, celebrating the memory of Remy Pettis, celebrating the music of Ipso Facto and Ryan. The show is called One Love. It's at the Dakota on October 2nd. Well, today, before we begin, I want to also say that we have some complimentary media tickets to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. And this weekend is the last weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, of a 7-weekend event. We've got tickets we'd like to share with you. We'd like to invite you to grab a pair or even a set of 4 tickets. And all you have to do is subscribe to this program, The Conversation with Al McFarlane, and you subscribe by going to Insight News MN on YouTube. Hit the subscription button. Also, while you're there, share and like, and then send a picture or proof of your subscription to info@Insight News. We'll send you some electronic tickets back within the day. So we want you involved and on board, and we thank you for watching. Today, 2 things. One, I'm going to start the program with an interview with a dear friend and elder leader in our community, a change maker. Dorothy Bridges is here. She's the president and CEO of Meda. And then for the second part of the show, a great conversation. I'll be joined by Insight's book review editor, Brother W.D. Foster Graham, and he has curated a wonderful interview with A.G. DeBerry, a novelist of continued rising fame. We'll discuss his work, his vision, his story for the second part of the program. So let me begin, though, with introducing Dorothy Bridges. Dorothy Bridges is the president of and CEO of Meda. Meda used to stand for Metropolitan Economic Development Association, but everybody over time just referred to it as Meda, and I think they formally changed their name to just Meda. Well, with her work at Meda, she's made and had a notable impact on the BIPOC community by fostering startup and growth of BIPOC-owned businesses. During her impressive legacy of over 40 years in the banking industry, Dorothy Bridges has focused on commercial and community development lending, including minority, small business, and development markets. Before Meda, she held leadership positions with the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, with the City First Bank in Washington, D.C., and Franklin National Bank here in Minneapolis. She's been recognized for her influence numerous times, including in 2020, Twin Cities Business Magazine's Outstanding Board of Directors honoree, 2021 Junior Achievement North Hall of Fame Laureate awardee, 2023 Minneapolis and St. Paul Business Journal's 200 Black Leaders awardee, 2023 Celebrating the Sisters awardee, 2023 Twin Cities Business Magazine's Notable BIPOC Executive Honoree, and 2023 Team Women's Wavemaker Uncharted Territory awardee. Well, Dorothy Bridges, so good to see you. Always an inspiration to be with you and around you. I have followed you in leadership at Greater Twin Cities United Way, where you served as the chair of the board of directors, and where I now serve as the chair. So I'm following your footsteps, and I'm telling you, it's both a challenge and an honor to live up to the high standard that you have provided in the course of your stewardship, your leadership, and vision of community. Welcome once again to the conversation.
Al, thank you so much for having me on your show today. I'm always humbled when people invite me to talk about something that I care deeply about and I love in terms of the work that I am doing currently with Meda. I really do have some very, very passionate words to talk about in terms of the direction that Meda is going and what it has been charged to do by a number of our key stakeholders. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Let's do three things. Generally, I want to go into the present initiative called the Minnesota Promise Act, what it is, what it means, and what the activity is. But I'd like to also, after we lay that groundwork, talk about the history of Meda. Sure. It's a powerful and wonderful organization. It's done great work historically. And then I want to also get a sense of where you see the future is for Meda specifically, and the work that agencies like Meda must provide to continue to build opportunity and to spread opportunity throughout the society. And then finally, Dorothy, I want to take a couple of minutes. I do this all the time to get and share your personal story. You, as I mentioned in the introduction, you've done a lot of great work, and I'd love to have you share what has inspired you individually, personally. What are your roots? Whose shoulders do you stand on? So think about that as we carry forward the conversation. Also, I want to invite those who are joining us on YouTube or on Facebook, on LinkedIn or Twitter. If you've got a question or comment about the topic, drop it in the chat. We want to shout you out, and we thank you for listening and watching. First of all, hello to Michelle Madison. Thank you, as always, for being a regular viewer here. We appreciate your support of the program. So, Dorothy, the Minnesota Promise Act, what is it, and what's Meda's role in it?
Sure. So to give you a few facts about what we call the Minnesota Promise Act, it was passed by the Minnesota legislature back in 2023, May of 2023. And promise, the word promise is an acronym. It is for providing resources and opportunity and maximizing investment in striving entrepreneurs. So that is what promise means. It is a grant and a loan program. It's new. It's a state-funded program. And like I said, the Minnesota State Legislature passed it. And we are offering grants and loans to disadvantaged small businesses who happen to be located in specific areas of the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So that is what Promise Act is when we talk about the Promise Act program. The programs, how the programs are funded, the state of Minnesota through Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development is the pass-through agency to which Meda and our partner, our key partner, NDC, Neighborhood Development Corporation, are really the distributors of those funds over the next 2 years. There are some specific things that in the Promise Act, before you, specific eligibility criteria before you even get to the loan underwriting stage for Meda. Meda is the one that's responsible for the lending. NDC is responsible for the grant. So on the lending side, the legislature awarded Meda $22 million to make loans in these particular communities in specific geographic locations. NDC was awarded $72 million for grant giving. And there are some specific eligibility criteria in addition to having the business be located in these specific geographic locations, had to have been in business as of 2021. So the Promise Act was designed to address those inequities that really were present, has always been present in specific communities, but was exacerbated by COVID and the George Floyd, the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. And so there are, in addition to location, being in business as of 2021, having a threshold for the maximum annual revenue as of 2021. The grant side of it is $750,000 in maximum revenue. To be eligible for the loan side is you can be up to $1 million in revenue as of 2021. And so that is how the funds are really first reviewed and tested and vetted from an eligibility. And these are legislative actions. These are rules that cannot be changed by Meda or NBC without legislature approving the change. Bolstering on the loan side, the goal of our investment is to bolster commercial development in these targeted places. If you recall, a number of businesses really suffered, and a number of businesses suffered as a result of the aftermath of Floyd. Businesses, buildings burned, businesses were displaced. And those that were not displaced, they were in a very, very fragile state. And so this is a way to try and address and bolster the development and the repositioning of or these businesses in the communities. So there's a portal. There's a website, minnesotapromiseact.org. So if there are listeners who are interested in, or viewers who are interested in learning more about the program, so please visit minnesotapromiseact.org, and that is mnpromiseact.org. Or you can go on social media at mnpromiseact through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
How many
so that is
loans?
The
Sure. How many loans do you anticipate you'll be able to fulfill or serve over the course of the project with, you said $22 million. What do you think? What's your goal?
Yes. So the goal it is to really deploy these loans until the dollars run out, and to be successful in the deployment within the 2-year span of time. We're looking at an average loan size of about $170,000. There are some outliers that it's larger, because the largest, so we can loan up to $1 million if a program qualifies and meets the underwriting standards. It's a loan for up to $1 million, and as small as $75,000 to $100,000. And what we are seeing, I should say that what Meda has seen today in terms of activity is from a pool of 1,500 or more than 1,500 applications through the portal. We have a total of 485 qualified loan applicants to date. So that is the legislature's hurdle. And then the loan needs to be underwritten. And so we're finding ourselves spending a great deal of time with getting our businesses ready for as loan candidates. And it is more time than we had anticipated in the beginning. The average loan size is about $175,000 to $200,000. To date, we have a good number of loans in the queue that are still in the underwriting process. We had hoped that we would get through the process within 45 to 60 days. It's taken a bit longer for that because of the readiness. If COVID did anything for small businesses, it's halted all of the operational discipline. So we're finding ourselves having to revisit that operational discipline before we would be interested, because we want every opportunity for an applicant to succeed, and sometimes that takes a little bit longer. We've got about a dozen loans in the pipeline to date. We executed in mid-January this process through our portal. To date, we've closed 5 loans, and we have another one that's in the pipeline to close. Well, actually, we have 7 others that are in the pipeline to close between now and the end of the calendar year. It is a process. It's a labor of love, and it's one that we have to have the 22 million fully deployed by June of 2027.
So you've got a couple of years still to work to get this money into the marketplace.
Absolutely, absolutely. And remember, this is a commercial development loan, so the eligible uses of it is for commercial development, building acquisition, improvements to existing buildings that are owned by businesses who are disadvantaged, that are located in these communities, and leasehold improvements, facade improvements, and the like. In often cases, we find ourselves providing capital stacks, because this is a program that is ineligible for working capital needs. So there is no working capital component to this. The way that the legislature designed everything is that on the grant side of things, that can be used for working capital or equipment purchase or those short-term, but for the loan program, it's commercial development.
Okay, all right. So, is the likelihood that the legislature or other resources will come to replenish or to expand this work once the initial $22 million is gone? What's the future look like for this?
That is certainly Meda's aspiration, that this is a program that we can effectively deploy, that we would have little resistance from the state or any other stakeholders, really doing a great service by adding to or enhancing the program and adding more funds and making more funds available for it. And so the best opportunity for us here at Meda is to make sure that we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's and visibly showing that the program works. And a visible way for the program to really show its effectiveness is you get all of these improvements in these buildings owned by the disadvantaged businesses in our community. Too often in these locations, you have absentee ownership of buildings. And that is certainly one of those aspirations that Meda has, is to increase the level of building ownership with people who are working in operating their businesses in the community.
What are the target neighborhoods that you're serving through this initiative, the specific communities?
Good question. So some of the targeted neighborhoods in the community are Minneapolis and St. Paul. Within Minneapolis is North Minneapolis, West Broadway, Camden, and other locations like Lowry Avenue and Penn. In South Minneapolis, it's Lake Street, 38th and Chicago, Franklin Avenue South, Nicollet, and Riverside corridors of South Minneapolis. And over in St. Paul is University, Midway, Frogtown, Rondo Community, and others. I would suggest that you go to the website, and there's a map that would identify where these specific locations are.
The organization Meda, I mentioned, it would be great to give sort of a historical background. I can start off by saying that I have been a Meda client for the entirety of my existence as a business. In fact, I started Insight News and McFarlane Media probably 45 years ago, when Charles Poe was the first executive director of Meda. And one thing we did that I participated in was called business leadership training. And boy, was it ever eye-opening and insightful. It helped me and my wife, Bobby, focus on the things we needed to do, the approaches we needed, the understanding that we needed, and the collaborations we needed to enter into business and to develop the sense of longevity and a sense of purpose, and keep focused on the goal of being businesses.
Yes.
Business has been tough, Dorothy, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of small businesses. Back when I started, they would say, if you can weather the first 5 years, you're going to be okay. And what Al McFarlane is saying now, if you can weather the first 50 years, you might be okay, because I'm on my 50th year anniversary as a business. But it started with the support of Meda, Charles Poe, business leadership training 50 years ago. So talk about the history of Meda, why it was created, and the vision as it's unfolded over the past half century.
Sure, sure. There's a saying that, I think about quite often when I think about the history of Meda. Meda is a 53-year-old organization. It was formed in November of 1971. And it was a call to action by, CEOs of some of the global corporations that we are enjoying having their headquarters here in the first place. So it was back in 1969 that we had our riots, right? So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So, and it was about economic disparities, economic development gaps in terms of working with minority owned and minority entrepreneurs and minority owned businesses, that there was clearly a reason that minority businesses were not succeeding because they didn't have the necessary access to capital. And so what these CEOs of these global corporations, and there were originally 14 of the many of them are still on our board. We have as board members, but the 14 are it used to be the predecessor of Pillsbury and General Mills before they became one. It was the financial institutions, Northwest National Bank, First Bank, and a host of other global corporations got together with some strong community leaders to say, we keep hearing that minority businesses do not have access to capital. What is the issue? What are the barriers? And what they first came up with was the notion that technical assistance was needed in order for minority-owned businesses to succeed. This was coming from the CEOs of the financial institutions who were not making loans to minority-owned businesses at the time. And so Meda was started as a technical assistance provider, and it was under Charles Poe as the inaugural executive director, where we put together a program where we would provide the much needed technical assistance, thinking that that would be the answer. And then our minority owned businesses would go to a bank and they would get their loans that are necessary in order for them to prosper and to grow. And we soon learned that that wasn't enough. And then we started having additional conversations, and later in the life, in the journey of Meda, we learned that the next barrier that we needed to address was, but these businesses are not growing. They're not getting the necessary revenue. So there's a concern, legitimate concern, that they can't pay the loan back, even if they were. They're good with the technical assistance, but if they're not growing, they are not able to pay the loan back. So Meda started supplier development arm of its organization. And so it added that level of service to the organization. And today we call it connections, making those necessary connections with these corporations so that you can really acquire some of the spin on the diversity, supplier diversity side of the corporations. Corporations spends billions and billions of dollars. And we have representation in our clientele in these key spaces where we want to make the connection where these organizations are really supporting our minority businesses or our BIPOC businesses with procurement services. And so we thought, hey, this should work. We're doing both of these things, and let's just get going and let's grow, our BIPOC businesses to a level where they can thrive and be successful. And then we still were not getting the kind of access to capital that we felt was needed in order not only to stabilize, but to grow, and then to get to a level of sustainability where you can then look at your legacy and build that intergenerational wealth. And so Meda sort of got kind of fed up with the barriers that were being raised. And so about 25 years ago, it started making its own loans. And
That's
so,
yeah.
So Meda is an organization today whose platform sits on three pillars, and that is the capital that we're providing through loans, and sometimes we are able to get some support from a corporation to do grants. The connections, meaning procurement, supplier diversity, supplier development, and then the third one is what we've always had as our secret sauce and how we were originally formed, and that's the consulting services. So it's 3 C's. I'm a banker, so I talk about the 5 C's of credit. 3 C's of Meda are capital, connections, and consulting work. And consulting, we have, we like to talk about it within a range where you have the initial stage of a business, then you go to the stability stage of a business, and then you go into a growth, and then the sustainability is the 4th stage, and then the 5th and final stage is maybe mergers and acquisition, meaning you are, you've arrived, you want to sell it off to, sort of build that intergenerational wealth without having to have that business be that lifelong thing for intergeneration. You may not have the next generation to support, the family.
I'm a graduate of the Meda mini MBA program. Again, a transformational experience of being with both peers and top-notch corporate and government consultants guiding businesses like mine to next level experiences, to the next level gateway. And so my story is a testimony to the value of this kind of hands-on engagement. How else can small businesses engage and be supported by Meda?
Yes. So I would suggest that we first invite these businesses to go to our website. It's Meda, www.meda.net. And take a look at sort of those programs and services that we offer. And if something strikes your interest, then please, reach out, go through the portal to say I'm interested. And again, it's around the 3 C's. The consulting work, if all you are looking for is just that one-on-one intense consulting, and you're at a growth stage, or you're in the sustainability and you want to go further, or if you're looking for the basic and you're at the initial stage or just reaching the stability stage, we have programs and services to cover the gamut on the consulting side of it. If it is capital, and you need the capital in order to, deliver on a particular contract that you do have, we do have a stable of lenders that are available and would be willing to work with you. And we pair the lenders with the business consultants so that there is even a greater chance of success. Now, it's not for the faint of heart. And if the expectation is that we can quickly turn things around, Meda has always prided itself on really being intentional with what we do, and that does. You put in the time as we you expect us to put in the time to get your house in order and to really move forward and progress.
What's the environment like right now for small businesses, for the businesses that you're concerned with, the mission that you're concerned with? And I'm talking about we're moving into a presidential election, and there are some distinct strategies at play now with the options being offered the public in general. From the point of view of small businesses, what ought people be aware of as we move towards an election, and how do we as businesses make the most out of whatever happens in November?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And in fact, that same question is being asked by a number of different key stakeholders, not just for Meda, but across the country. What is at play, and what is the impact of the potential impact of the outcome of this election? If it were to go one direction, how should small businesses prepare itself? If it were to go in a different direction, how should businesses prepare itself? At the end of the day, for our businesses and the ones that we said, Meda has a mission of helping BIPOC businesses succeed. The Promise Act, I should say, that BIPOC sits in a larger umbrella the Promise Act is for disadvantaged businesses, regardless of whether you are BIPOC or mainstream or white-owned businesses. If you are in these targeted locations, you are eligible for the Promise Act. So that's the first clarification that I want to make with everybody, that BIPOC, the Promise Act is not limited to just BIPOC. If you are in these geographic locations and you are eligible, you can apply. But the trend for us in this political environment is a big player in small businesses and fostering and supporting small businesses, the federal government. If you've been following the news and you've been staying on top of our politics, you do know that if one party gets elected, that the federal government, there is a movement to literally disband key agencies within the federal government that would make it very, very difficult. This whole notion about tariffs can impact, because there's a trickle down effect, right? If major businesses are, really experiencing some pain, it trickles down to even at our level, because our businesses rely on these major corporations sometimes for procurement and other revenue, and we're generally the first to be cut. Our businesses are. If you go in a different direction, there is already evidence that this current administration is very, very small business friendly, and really understand the needs for small businesses to grow and to prosper. There's any number of surveys and studies that have been done by some very reputable, credible institutions like Brookings and others, where it is most of the businesses, a good percentage of the businesses, roughly 80% that are designated as small businesses, are non-employer-based businesses. And that 80 to 85%, and that 15% are the employer-based businesses. So growth would suggest that you are an employer-based business and you're hiring people, and you are growing and prospering in that manner. When it comes to BIPOC community, it's even less employee. It's about 5%. And so that's another trend that we are having to pay attention to. There are some non-employer-based businesses where you are the single employee, where they have an interest in growing to be employer-based businesses, where they want to hire additional people. And that is certainly going to be a place where Meda will find itself over the coming years as a new, as we develop and we learn more about the state of small business, regardless of what happens politically.
Dorothy, let me close by spending a couple of minutes with you telling your personal story. Native of, where are you from?
Native of New Orleans, Louisiana. Go Saints.
Well, talk about whose shoulders you stand on. What and who, what legacy show up in your today.
Yes. Well, thank you for asking that. New Orleans, Louisiana is home. My family, the Bridges, they hail from Mississippi. I guess our family legacy is based on something that happened back in 1960 to a cousin of mine. My father was the oldest, and he and his twin brother shared that position of being the oldest in the family. Well, the brother had a daughter named Ruby, and Ruby Bridges, integrating the public school system back in 1960, is certainly something that has been the legacy of our Bridges family that we carry with us. And during that time that this was occurring, there was so much that happened to our family that was pretty traumatic, but the good in all of this was the way that community pulled together and assembled together to support our family. And so those are my roots, and those are the shoulders that I stand on as I think about the work that I'm doing over the years. And it just happened that me going into banking provided a much needed platform and a way to say our communities should be better off for our existence. I mean, I came from a community that had no bank at all within, I would say, 10 miles of where we were raised in New Orleans. And so
Mhm.
everything was done on a cash system, bartering. My family, my grandparents were sharecroppers, as was my father and his siblings. They were
Mhm.
sharecroppers. And so those are other tall, broad shoulders that I stand on as well, is that part of our legacy. But yeah, I learned to be passionate about community at a very early age, and having the opportunity to really give back to community in a way that was provided by my profession is a lifelong journey for me. And I think I'm even more passionate about it today than I was earlier.
Last question is, when you were, say, coming out of high school, going into college, did you ever imagine you'd be a bank president? Did you ever imagine you'd be an executive at the Federal Reserve Bank? Did you ever imagine you'd be the CEO and president of Meda?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When you're coming out of high school and you're impressionable and you're thinking, let me just get through these 4 years and I get back to doing the things that I was always doing. When I graduated college, I had no notion. Again, like I said, we didn't have any knowledge about banking or finance. We were living from, subsistence means paycheck to paycheck with 8 children in a family, and parents not having more than an elementary school education. So learning about the banking world really came to me late in life, immediately after college. And so serendipity is what I call it. And so just looking forward and taking advantage of opportunities to just be that sponge that would soak up all of this knowledge, and how I could really use that to not only make my family better, but our communities better.
I love the word serendipity. I've heard it twice this week. I was in a meeting earlier this week with a former colleague of yours, and that's Art Rolnick,
Yes, yes.
who was a fixture at the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis and who's an economist, but he used that term. And here the term comes up again.
Yeah.
It's serendipitous that you use the same term. Listen, Dorothy, so good to talk with you. Please come back often and use this platform to both educate and connect our community to the vision and to the opportunity. Thank you so very, very much.
And thank you for having me. And I will take you up on that offer. So we're on a mission to improve our communities, and we just have to double down on it, and with a great deal of intention. So thank
Dorothy
you so
Bridges,
much for being that place, that safe place, that place we can all gravitate to get messaging out. I appreciate all the work you've done.
awesome. Thank you so much. I'm
Take
Al
care.
McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. As I promised, a robust conversation that certainly fits that description, but we continue in the same vein. Let me bring on my co-host for the balance of the program, and that is the books review editor, Insight News, WD Foster Graham. WD, brother, good afternoon. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Al. Good to be here one more time.
Now, you must have got a new microphone because your voice sounds so rich and so deep. What did you do with your sound? Is it the same?
Oh, yeah, it's different. I found that my microphone and my headphones from my old piece, they broke down, so I upgraded.
Well, you can tell because your voice just comes across with such power and such clarity, and it's a wonderful voice. So thank you again for being here. Well, we've got an author that we want to present and talk about for the balance of the program. And the author is A.G. DeBerry. Uh, and Brother DeBerry, in a note, said, I don't understand this, but you can explain it, Brother DeBerry. Oh, well, I do understand it. My name is Armel Green, so maybe Armel Green DeBerry, born in Kankakee, Illinois, moved to Minnesota at the age of 8. Charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder in 1995, went to trial in 1998, found guilty and sentenced to 346 and 306 months that ran concurrent while he was in prison, wrote poetry, which led to short stories and eventually books. And now he's the proud author of 4 self-published books. The titles include Carmelo's Way, 187 Assassins, Book 1, 2, and 3. His 4th book is called The Introvert's Seduction. Welcome to the program, Brother A.G. DeBerry. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Okay. We're doing well too. AG, lead the conversation. Not AG, but WD. WD, AG. I'm gonna call myself AA. Then we'll all be on the same platform here. But go ahead. WD.
That works. AG, it was a pleasure to have you back, because I remember us meeting through Minnesota Black Authors Expo on more than one occasion.
Yes.
And I was definitely intrigued regarding the book Carmelo's Way, 187 Assassins and stuff, because it has a slant that's on urban fiction that is quite different from what I have been reading. So why don't you say, tell us a little bit more about what your inspiration or what your motivation was when you started writing this book series.
Well, when I first started writing, I got incarcerated. I was 15 years old. At the age of 16, I was certified to be an adult. And in Hennepin County, juveniles can't hang with adults or can't be in the same unit as adults, even though they're certified. And so I spent 23 hours a day in my cell for 2 years. And my way of escape, my way of sanity was to live in this fantasy world where, what would I be doing if I wasn't here? And so that kind of kept me in the mindset of, this is going to be okay. Like, don't go crazy. Like, keep your mind focused. When I was found guilty, I decided to try to transfer my thinking into writing, and found that I was good at it, but did it sort of as like a pastime and didn't take it serious. 2004, I decided to change my life, where I wanted to do better in life. I didn't want to be the person that I was. I wanted to be an individual where I grew up hanging with a group of people, and I just got tired of it, and I wanted to just be me. And so I decided to leave my past in my past, and I started to be more productive while I was in prison. And so I went to college. I took up machine fabricating, and I started writing. And so, like I say, so they had people from society coming in teaching writing classes. And from there, so I did poetry, I wrote short stories. And then from the short stories, Carmelo's Way came about. I was thinking about writing a book. And like a lot of times, people, they want to hear the success story. And so people want to know more about, like, people want to know less about what a person did to get to where he or she is, and more about how they're doing well and how they did X, Y, and Z, but not the story of what led an individual to the position that he or she is in. And so I wanted to write a story based off of that. So that was the beginning of Carmelo's Way. The thing is, when you're writing, you may have an idea, but the story takes a mind of its own. And so,
Yes.
in 2015, I was released from prison, and I published books 1 and 2. And it was hard to get them on a national scale, because we have this black on black crime. We have so many stories of black men killing black men, black teenagers killing black teenagers, where there's so much on the news where why read a book about it? But like I say, people, they don't want to read. They want to know about when a person is successful, or when the person is doing well, or when a person is this positive person up in their community. But nobody, they rarely want to hear the story of how an individual got there. So when I was released from prison, I started working with nonprofits because my mindset was, I don't want to, I don't want to be the person that I was, and I want to be productive out here. Like, I went in at 15, I got out at 35. And so I want to be a better man for myself, for my family, for my community. And so I worked with multiple nonprofit organizations just to give back. When George Floyd was murdered, that's the area that I grew up in. So I started volunteering there and seeing young people there all the time. So we had we were able to sell things up there. So I brought my books up there, and like a lot of young people were coming saying, "I like your book. I like your book. I like your book." And so I say, well, then I want to do book 3, where Carmelo, who is this villain, where he start making harder choices to be more productive, and just to hopefully get in the mindset where just because you started here don't mean you have to continue to be here, and that there's opportunity for change. And so I decided to write book 3 in a different mindset as I had wrote book 1 and 2. And so book 3 is more of the beginning of a transformation of, I'm tired of doing what I was doing. Like, I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better person, and trying to find different ways to do it. And also dealing with the financial piece where we don't understand, and I got this, where we don't understand budgeting in our community. We don't understand financial consciousness. And so I wanted to put some of that up in the book as well, just to open up people's minds on a few things. And so that's where I'm at now, because there's a 4th Carmelo's Way, but the 3 that I have now, that's where I'm at with those.
Oh,
Is the Carmelo figure autobiographical, or who is Carmelo?
Carmelo is fiction, and so no, it's not autobiographical. So it's just a person that I thought about, and the storyline that I wanted, and I had to give him a name, and so Carmelo was the name that was given.
And where'd that name come from? Why Carmelo?
My name is Armel, and so
close. Okay.
But Carmelo was just a name that it just sounded good. So we think about ways to attract people. And so I thought about Carlito's Way.
Mm-hmm.
So Carmelo's Way. So, it makes sense. It made sense to me.
Well, I thought of this when I read the first book about 187 Assassins, that what you put into it, he's not, when it comes to urban fiction, Carmelo's not this one-dimensional villain. He's far more complex. The more I read, the more that shows up. So based on what you shared, now, is this part of the process that's going into books 2 and 3?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So in book 2, he has these 2 women who teaches him. One teaches him the stock market. One teaches him how to invest his money into property. And so it's just showing that he is complex, that he's not just one dimensional, and that even though, like, we have great minds, and if we can just look at it instead of in a tunnel vision, but the other things that we can do with it, with the knowledge that we have, that we are all complex beings, and that we can be. And so I didn't want him to just be the same as everyone else. You know, I wanted Carmelo to be this complex individual who is loving, who is caring, who is intelligent, and who has more than one side to him.
Do you have your books by you there, by your side?
I do.
Well, let's show them. Let's show the covers, and also spend as much time as we can trying to sell books.
Yeah.
So we want people to
So this is,
buy some books.
Yeah. So this is Carmelo's Way, book 1. I have book 2 right here.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a
I see.
Montage of everything up. That's good. So take a minute, if you would, brother, and maybe come up with a paragraph or two or a section out of each of those books. I don't know. I should have asked you this before the show.
I wish you would.
Yeah, but if you can just put your fingers on something that kind of gives the vibe, maybe in 1, 2, and 3, and certainly in 1, it's, kind of shows the transition and transformation of the character in the story over the course of this narration.
Indeed.
Anything jump out at you?
I can. Every book is 250 pages plus, and so and I should have looked for something.
Yeah, and while you're looking, keep talking. So you said you did what, 300 months? 300 hours?
I spent 19 years, 10 months, and 8 dadays in prison.
How
So
many
I
months?
was sentenced to 346 months, and 306 months ran concurrent. And so I was released August 11th, 2015. I got off parole August 4th of this year. So a month and a half ago, I did 9 years of parole, and now I'm done with everything. So I did my prison time. I did my parole time, no violations. Did not go back to prison. Been productive in the community and gainfully employed since I've been released in 2015.
Excellent.
And so I can't do the math in my head. How many months altogether did you actually serve in the sentence?
The month, I spent 19 years. I spent 19 years, 10 days, 19 years, 10 months, and 8 days in prison. So I did not go home from October 3rd, 1995 until August 11th of 2015.
Okay. So what's happening? This is a kind of a diversion, and if you want to talk about it, great. If you don't, that's fine. What's happening now on the national scene with Puff Daddy is capturing the attention, P. Diddy, of everybody in the country. And so I don't know if you're following that at all.
It's on social media, so people see it, but my life is so busy. I'm working with men coming out of prison. I'm working with men who are court ordered for domestic violence. I work for the city of Minneapolis. I'm writing, so I don't really I see it, but I'm rarely on social media. Okay. I'm rarely I'm trying to stay busy. I'm trying to stay focused, and I've been out of prison 9 years, and I still don't know how to work Facebook. Because I coming out of prison, I had to work 2 jobs. I had to work 3 jobs. So I'm constantly busy. My dad is 77, so I'm helping him a lot, and so I don't really get into that.
Got it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, question for you on that: if you could just briefly tell us about the DeBerry Foundation.
So, the one thing that I learned, I had a friend of mine who was in prison serving a life sentence, and he's a great writer. And he was recently released. He had got his sentence reduced through Governor Walz and Keith Ellison. And so he's out of prison now, but him and I used to write together while we were in prison.
Mhm.
And so he was still spending time in prison, and I was out here writing. And we just came up with this idea where the one thing you realize that there's a lot of talent in prison. Like there's a lot of men, whether it's writing, whether it's drawing, whether it's bead work, but you realize that a lot of people have a lot of talent in prison. They just realize it too late. And so the DeBerry Foundation is basically we help you sell your books out here in society. We help you sell your beadwork, your paintings, and we try to help you while you're in there. And you get 100% of the proceeds, because in prison you make between 25 cents and $1 an hour. And so the mindset is that if you're writing or if you're doing beadwork or if you're painting and you're dependent on this money from people buying your art, that you're less likely to go to the hole. You're less likely to get into trouble, and you're more focused on your craft, your art, and the mind. And so when you release from prison, the one thing that you're going to do is be told no. And so whether that's with a job, whether that's just in life, you're going to be told no more times than you're going to be told yes. And so you have to make a living. And so instead of going back to the streets, or instead of going back to doing negative things, you have this self-worth where, okay, I can just use my hand, I can use my mind, I can use what I have to make me money, and I don't have to commit any crime. And so now you're an entrepreneur. So being on parole, you have to get a job. So now you have a job. Now you have your own skill. And so now you're making two incomes. And so even if your job, my first job was under $10 an hour, but I worked it and I had to get another job. But some people pride won't, it's like, I'm not working that job. But now you also have this skill where I can write and I can go on social media. I can sell my books. I can sell my bead work. Now I can buy the tools myself to buy more beads, or the beads that I like, or the artwork that I like, or so now your time is occupied. And so you're not thinking about committing crimes. You're not thinking about being negative. But the other part of DeBerry Foundation is, if we do help you, when you get out of prison, you have to go back to the community that you destroyed, and you have to help the young people that are there, because they are the ones who are going to people who are young look up to people who've been through what they've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a person who had this name that people respected come back into the community and they say, well, I'm not doing that anymore. This is what I'm doing. Yo, if you have this talent, this skill, let's learn your gift now, instead of learning it when you're doing 30 years of in prison, and you can't be the person that you finally want to be 10 years later when you want to change your life, but you have 20 more years in prison. Let's let you be great out here. And so that's the mindset, and that's the mindset of DeBerry Foundation. And so we haven't found a grant writer yet in order to do that. And so Coley and I are just working with individuals up on our own time, and just trying to help as many as we can with the little that we do have.
We're out of time, but I'm impressed, brother. So good to meet
Indeed.
you. And I'm glad to hear you and hear your voice, and to learn about your work, and whatever we can do to help promote it, we'd be glad to. Thank you for both the storytelling, and most of all, the demonstration that your life makes about continuing to be better and to move towards being one's true self. Discovering and engaging the gift, and leading with the gift in yourself and in other people as well. Does that say it properly?
I'm grateful. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Listen, Brother WD, thank you, man.
my pleasure.
All right. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.